fix the whole sticker. Maybe the first warning should go out sticking onto the windshield. You put it on the windshield wiper, let them know. Maybe the second time you rip a little piece off and put it on the glass to kind of be nice. They're neighbors. I guess the third time you can do what you need to, but remember that'll be an irate person having to scrape off a sticker.
You got bigger ones?
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
I guess if you bring it to my attention, I'll make them bigger, if that's the complaint.
They should have a
Here to listen
warning,
and
first, second, and third
community.
strike.
Snow plowing. Winter's upon us. One of the programs that I proudly funded was the Wildcat program. If we have elderly, now please, I want to make sure that you use me and don't abuse me. We funded a snow plowing program for those members in this district that are either too elderly or are not physically capable of plowing the snow in front of their homes. It's limited funding. So if you can afford, if you can plow, please do so. If you have children at home and you can get them off their Xbox, please have them do it. You don't have the financial resources to hire someone, please let me know. But if you take this service, you may prevent someone else that could use it and really needs it. In any event, please contact my office so we can get your address and information on the list before it snows. So don't call me the day of and say, hey, I heard you got that program, I want to sign up. It doesn't work that way. The group has to prepare way in advance of the number of homes and depending on the amount of snowfall. Halloween will be continuing the traditional celebrations with the Assemblywoman, not only at PS 105, but we'll also be doing it on Morris Park and continuing on East Tremont. I encourage all to take part in our Safe Streets and Safe Treats Halloween at Morris Park Association, along with the Morris Park Bid, and Big Deal have sponsored the one on Morris Park. And if you recall, it was 4 years ago now, there was that tragedy where the car lost control, and that driver, by the way, was convicted for not taking his medication.
He gets convicted.
That resulted
the
in the
goes
death of 3 people on Morris Park on Halloween. A grandfather with his grandchild that were trick-or-treating, and another individual that was out there with his sister. Tragedy that we can't forget, and we should do all that we can to protect our trick-or-treaters, to make sure, and we should also keep an eye on them. It's not only the cars, but we have people out there that could be preying on our kids, and that's always a day that's a concern because of the costumes and all the other festivities in and around the celebration that can allow or expose our children to conditions that we would generally be more aware of and preventing. So if anybody has any questions, get answered.
All right, let's start with Edith and Marcy.
I also went to that meeting Monday night, and I was there. With all due respect to you and Natalia and to our deputy inspector, R49 is doing everything in their power to eliminate all this garbage in our community. But because of the judges and the district attorney, they're let loose. My answer to the district attorney was, if it was up to me, I'd lock him up and throw away the key. She didn't like it, and I'm sure she doesn't like me, and I really don't care. As a politician, as 2 politicians sitting here, we have nothing to offer our teenagers. They come out of school, they come out of high school, they have nowhere to go but get into trouble. We need some kind of after-school activity, either open up the schools, let them get into the gym and play ball. We need a center for every single area in the 11. Community Board 11. We're asking for your help. We will help you, we will do, I'm sitting and nodding with Bernadette. We will help you as much as we can, but we need something where our kids can go. You have to educate the children first before you expect them to go on the right road.
Edith, thank you for that. I just want to respond to you. For the longest time, I've heard from this community, our men and women in blue aren't doing their job, that they're turning a blind eye, they're not arresting the criminals, they're allowing drug dealers to continue, they're allowing those that prey on our stores and small businesses and not arresting them for the laws that they're breaking, and basically saying they're allowing the lawlessness to continue. The importance of that meeting was to bring them all in. Because we'd question the NYPD, they would say it's not us, it's the DA. We'd question the DA would say it's the judge. We'd question the judge would swing it right back to the NYPD, and all you had was finger pointing. And it's regrettable that I couldn't be there. I assure you folks that this is not the lack of enforcement or responsibility that our men and women in blue are not adhering to. This is a broken system that the DAs aren't demanding higher bail, and I'm not saying everyone needs to be arrested, we should have mass incarcerations. But when we have 50 prior arrests, it's no longer debatable, does he need another second chance?
Oh.
And we create the arguments for them. So the district attorney isn't asking for high bail amounts. The district attorney isn't asking for that individual to remain behind bars until there's a date set for his trial. And the judge is given the discretion of, I'll use an example for a crime, up to a year behind bars, or we give them 20 hours community service or force them to go into a program for drug abuse, which puts them right back in our street. This individual went right back to the same store that he was arrested at repeatedly. And he told the cops, I'm going back. And there's nothing that you can do.
Yeah, and if the owner kills him,
So we start the court watches program. We write letters and send them to the presiding judge, the administrative law judge, the district attorney, and list all of the community boards, associations that say this person needs the maximum allowable by law for these crimes. Then maybe we can get them off our streets and get them the help that they need. But this revolving door is taking its toll on this community.
It certainly is, and I did not say that the 49 is not doing their job. They're doing more than their job and a very adequate job, but we're not helping them any. We're making life tougher for them because these guys come out. She wanted us to give ideas of what kind of rehab we can give this jerk that's been arrested 52 times. What's the rehab?
Lock him up. Sounds good to me.
You're the district attorney, and you're coming to us for our ideas?
I wasn't there, but what they said is the state has to change the law and
There you
change
go.
the punishment.
Yeah.
Just follow the laws on the books. We don't have to make them stricter and more increase the level of punishment.
Take away the judge's
Follow
discretion.
the law. The interpretation is allowed up to that judge, unfortunately. So I agree with you. Thank you.
Marcy?
So, thank you, first of all, Catherine House. Notice my amount of calls have decreased last month, so thank you very much for doing a great job, 49 crazy. And that's number one. Number two, addressing the Halloween thing. White Plains Road is a nightmare full of parents and children who feel entitled to go into every store and bang their hands on counters, not buying anything from these stores, and demanding candy. So
Halloween.
in support of the private homeowners and the store owners, if you don't want to give candy, shut your doors, put a sign in the window, no candy. No one is entitled just because it's Halloween and you're a child, big or small, to get candy from anyone. That's like sticking them up.
One day of the year.
A passive aggressive crime. It's a shame. So So,
It's
that
Halloween.
being
Come on,
said,
not
that's what I do have to say.
That's
Also,
what
I'd like
Halloween
to
is
know-
about.
Entitled?
They're not entitled.
Stickers, I like them big and large. There's none there.
Okay. I have some at the table there. Marilyn
One
has
day out of
more,
the
but
year,
I'm sure
one day.
Andy will get them.
They have a
Let's
whole
start with
year
you
to
before we get
prepare
bigger and grander.
for Halloween for the kids.
Thank you.
Really?
Marcy.
I won't
Oh,
shop
I
at
didn't-
any
you know,
store.
I just wanna acknowledge, it was Bernadette that spearheaded and brought to our attention this revolving door scenario, with this individual. So I wanna thank Bernadette for, teaching me, deserves a round of applause as well.
Rabbi, you had a question? Can you speak in the mic? Okay, thank you. Good evening. I have actually two questions. Is that okay? Can I do two at a time? Keep it short, please. Okay, she said he's a rabbi. You can get two questions. Okay, thank you. Okay, and it's actually for the assemblywoman and the councilman. They can take either question. Okay, so the first question is, one of the reasons I get for the young people not to move into this neighborhood is because of the access to Manhattan. They said the express bus takes about 3 weeks, the subway takes about a month, and they need some quick access to Times Square, Grand Central. This whole thing with the Morris Park station, this is becoming like East Side Access too. I mean, this has been spoken about for 10 years, 8 years, it'd be the greatest thing. And I think it would be a major attraction for young couples, professionals to move into this neighborhood. Like the gentleman said, you could be in Manhattan in 20 minutes. It's an amazing thing. Here, you could get to Metro North, and my friend Joseph over there could tell you, but it takes you about an hour to get to Metro North to get to Pelham Parkway, down Pelham Parkway. So although it takes you 20 minutes to get in, it takes you an hour to get to the station. So I guess my question in the form of a question is there anything that could take it up to a higher level with the battle of this one and that one to make sure this thing becomes a reality? Because I'm starting to get this feeling this thing is never going to happen because everybody is fighting and fighting and fighting. That's question number one. Question number two, and this is a reality statement. Both of you were very close to Senator Klein. He lost the election, and that's life, I guess. Senator Klein did a lot for this neighborhood. Senator Klein did a lot for this community board. Whether you voted for him, didn't vote for him, the bottom line is he lost. What do you two see, and I hope the next person is as good or better, but if the next person does not take on all these projects that Senator Klein did for this neighborhood, does that put a little more pressure on both of you to fill in the gap? That's my question. You can take either question.
Well, the Morris Park Station is part of the East Access, the Metro North Morris Park Station is part of the mega plan to have coordinated Metro North stops on the east side of the Bronx to increase, transportation, as was said.
East Side Access is Manhattan, by the way. That's from the Long Island Railroad to the Metro North Station. It has nothing to do with this. It's a separate project. But go ahead.
Okay. In regards to taking it a step further, I believe that we need to now, encourage our federal officials to get into this fight with us. It is Amtrak that is the holding piece to the start of this project, so with somebody on the federal level that can get a little closer to them. I mean, I know we're doing our best at the state level with our calls, our letters, going to the hearings, you know, being a part of the process, in the planning, so I look forward to seeing that our next federal representative, is in this fight with us. Aside from that, let's get a petition going. But
Excuse me, this is just a matter of building a station, right? It's a matter of going from one to build the station, something I could take maybe, no, what are you shaking your head?
it's much more.
It has to do with using the Amtrak tracks.
Okay.
That's the problem. Amtrak wants, the MTA to pay for the work it's gonna take to, make the tracks accessible. So that's where the fight is right now. Amtrak doesn't wanna pay for it, MTA doesn't wanna pay for it. It's gonna be in the hands of, the feds, I guess, and the state, and they're gonna have to make a
Part of
decision.
it, but Amtrak just needs to basically, I guess,
rush to their schedule, because this is part of their plans to fix the Pelham Bay Bridge and other tracks, and they do have to extend a little bit, but they just don't wanna do it now. So we're asking that they do the repairs now, get it open and accessible to us, so we can build then the stations in Morris Park, Parkchester, and Park City.
And my point is, this is not like building a Second Avenue subway, this is
No,
just
this is
building
the
one
track's
station.
already there.
That's all it is.
It's just the station, yes.
Okay,
So the tracks are there, we just need access on the tracks, and then to build the station.
thank you. Okay, second question.
Second question is a little bit more complicated. I'll make it very simple. Right now, we don't have a congressman. He is going to serve through January, but he's not very involved. They're in a transition phase. The same for the state senator. So the answer is yes. We're already feeling the pressure of filling the voids from casework and needs of the constituents, both at a federal level and at a local level, state and city. Jeff was an institution. He had a well-staffed office. He had resources. It's going to take a while for us to transition and put the pieces together. Election will be next
Still
month.
a senator, he still gets paid.
The
He still gets paid. He's
Yes.
part of the staff. What do we?
Comments?
I
Will be, thank you.
is the transition, the election is next month, between November and January. We're not going to have a sitting senator. Right after the election, you have,
That's bullshit.
okay.
Okay, you wanna be,
It's going to
we will
be,
excuse you from the room.
we have work to do, and the outcome of this election will be working alongside of the electeds, just what we have to. We have vested interest. I know that this isn't an easy thing for many people to get their hands around and grasp and embrace, but it is what it is, and we have to now work wisely, smarter to get things done. And after November 6th, the sun will rise, and the days will continue, and we'll build on it. But in the meantime, we are feeling a little bit of the pressure. But we'll see how it all pans out.
Thank you so much. Brenda.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Councilman Joe and I, for picking up the baton and having that meeting on Monday night. It was great. I do really request a follow-up, and I think the pressure and the meeting should continue with other judges that do want to be a part of this and hear other information and hear from Community Board 10 and Community Board 11, the civic associations, because as we all know, this revolving door is not something new. It's been going on for years and years and years, and it's got to stop, because communities are afterward can't keep the peace and can't do it. You know, we're going to lose a lot of good people from our communities. So that's important. So I thank you for following up with that. The other thing, the misdemeanor, one of the things that DA Clark said was, what the law says that they're being, like this particular poster boy, okay, with the 50 priors, said that he is, every time, it has to build up to $1,000 to make it be a felony. Now, if this guy has 50 priors, I didn't get a chance to ask, if this guy has 50 priors, I'm sure his bank account, his retail go way past $1,000, and why can't he get up to a felony?
But I'll let perhaps the local inspector answer that, but my understanding is because the pharmacy,
They're not pressing charges?
no, they did press charges, and they actually got him on trespassing because he's not supposed to be on those premises any longer, which elevated the crime from a petty larceny to a burglary, which is what we needed to put this individual behind bars. And the judge just 2 hours back on the street. Didn't enforce the laws that are on the books.
Okay, well, that has to change. And just to flip with regards to the Metro North, my question for the elected officials is, If I'm correct, I went to the first workshop when this got presented in 2011 at St. Raymond's, okay? Here we are in 2018, 7 years later. Why is this Amtrak issue coming up now? After all of this, that's my question. I mean, this is like, should have been one of the first things, and I'm just curious why it's becoming an obstacle now, and how we
Because
can
we're
vet.
getting closer to the start date, and as you get closer, now the real money has to be committed, and all along,
Okay.
we've been discussing it, but now it's about putting the pressure on all of the parties and stakeholders to get this done as promised. The borough president's working on this aggressively. We know that the state is concerned about this. It was a priority for them. The city is concerned. Now it's just making sure that those that are responsible, and again, our community doesn't care who pays, whether it be the city or state or federal government. You just want it open, and you should demand it's open, and you should hold all of us accountable and put pressure on us to make sure that we do our part.
Okay, we're gonna move to the deputy inspector. All right,
Good evening. So, to speak to you in regards to this individual that we keep speaking of, so, and maybe I could try to explain it in simplest terms, what our South Park and I guess the police department and, criminal justice reform is trying to, accomplish. So they're looking at, crime, and they're analyzing crime, and they're seeing that a small percentage of people are committing an overwhelming large amount of crime in the city. It's a select few people. It's not a mass number. So the focus is on those individuals, kind of like the one we were talking about, Jamie Martinez. So they're trying to do away with incarcerating only the worst of the worst. I guess you could put Jamie Martinez in that category, because he does have a lot of crimes, fueled by a drug addiction, but they're looking to solve the problem, the underlying problem, not necessarily the crime, but what's driving that crime, and that's his drug addiction. Now, he doesn't seem to be taking that services, and he's not agreeable, I guess, to solving his condition. So, what does it take to force him to accept those services? Because it is negatively affecting this community. It's negatively affecting the businesses. And my plan at first, because like you said, these petty larceny, shoplifting crimes, they're low-level crimes. Typically, it's time served when you get arrested for this. This is not something you want to put someone away for long periods of time for, because I don't know if that necessarily solves the problem. But that's the whole criminal justice aspect. Try to solve that underlying crime. I totally get your frustration. I'm frustrated. I feel as if he taunts us. I feel as if he has no respect for all the chances he's been provided and all the outreach we have given him. He has no respect for the community, himself, the police department, the process. But I understand criminal justice reform, and I believe it, to be honest with you. Now, this individual should probably be forced into a program. I think he's had enough chances. I think it's an embarrassment to the system. Eventually, you gotta take a stance. This might be the guy that you take a stance for. Like I said, I've been reviewing all the people that have been arrested that come through the command on a daily basis. I talk to the Bronx DA's office. I tell them, hey, listen, this is a guy, he's had enough chances. Let's go with it. The process I had put in place was the charges up to a felony burglary, because he's going back after he was solving the notices. He didn't solve the problem. One of the things that we were talking about at the town hall discussion that Mark put together was why a lot of these crimes are getting declined prosecution, why a lot of these crimes, there's nobody, it's not going anywhere. People are getting arrested and revolving door arrests. One of the points that they made up was, and this is true, the overwhelming majority of the crimes or the arrests we make have a complainant victim behind it. So in other words, it's a domestic violence complaint. In other words, someone is saying this person harmed me or this person stole my property, broke my, property, damaged my car, did whatever, hurt me, shot me, stabbed me. Those are complainant victim crimes. Those are the overwhelming majority of when we make an arrest, it's, majority of them are complainant victims. When a complainant victim does not come forward, or does not follow up with the Bronx DAs to prosecute the offender, it gives the Bronx DAs a green light to decline prosecution. That drives up recidivist arrests. So a lot of people, you'll see, a lot of people are getting arrested, and their arrests are getting sealed, because complainant victims in the community, whether it's a family member, it could be someone that resides in this community, just had a negative interaction with the perpetrator, they're not coming forward and not following up the process. A good, maybe, outcome with this would be to make the process easier for complainant victims. That might be something that we can talk to our self partner about. To make it easier for them to come forward and go through this process, because it's very arduous, it's very time consuming, and it takes a lot, and it's repeat trips down to Bronx DA's office. And if they can make the process easier for the complainant victims, maybe these cases could go somewhere. They also talked about the large volume of cases coming to their command, so they are their office. So they have to pick and choose which the ones are going to go to trial. I understand that it's manpower, resource intensive. I get that too. I got to pick and choose really which radio runs to prioritize. They got to pick and choose which cases to prioritize. I get that too. Maybe they need more judges. Maybe they need more district attorneys. That could be a manpower issue. That's something maybe you can talk to them about. Just like the police department's held accountable for my 7 majors, my major crimes. Maybe the Bronx DA's office gets held accountable on their crime prosecutions and they have to explain their numbers. That's an idea. But I understand the changes that's going on with criminal justice reform. I support it. It's about solving what's causing the crime. Because, and I want you to think about this. The more people we arrest, and you gotta kind of understand it like this. This is the whole argument about mass incarceration. The more people you arrest, and you give them a criminal justice and a NICID number, and they have a state identification number, the harder it is for them to move on with their lives and get a job, and therefore they get stuck in that revolving door of crime. Now, my only opportunities is crime. So the whole thought process behind it is we have this thing called basically forgiveness. If you've never been arrested before, you get arrested for a minor offense, and we have these 14 listed crimes. It's a forgiveness, the first one. You do community service, and maybe you get an opportunity. If not, what happens at that point, if you continue down that road, then we process you and you end up going through the system. So it's trying to be an avoidance of the criminal justice system, giving people second chances, opportunities. I get it. I understand it. I think the process needs to be given a chance. But I also think the Bronx DA's office needs to be held accountable, just like anything else is accountable. Like the elected officials, I'm held accountable. Let the Bronx DA's office explain why they're declining prosecution on an individual like this that we're talking about 63 times, 30 arrests in 2018. Let them explain that. Needs to be. Thank you.
Deputy Inspector, my concern is not with helping a person who commits a crime once or even twice, if that crime is not a violent crime. But when someone does something to harm someone else, that's a bad guy.
Right.
They have that knockout game where they just walk up and knock somebody out, where that person is spending 2 days in the hospital, his jaw is wired, he missed work, his wife's upset, his kids are upset, and this guy is pleading down to a simple assault and walking. That's not okay, because that's a bad guy.
100%.
And those are and that's what I was trying to tell the DA the other night.
Right.
Those are the ones I don't have any sympathy for.
Right.
When they harm another person, they should be put away.
Absolutely.
Don't plead those cases.
So,
And what she's doing is she's pleading those cases down.
okay, well, Okay, that would be something that you had to answer to, but what I'm trying to say is, those type of cases, that's a complaint and victim case. So that person that got knocked out, an elderly person, and that's an extreme case.
And what if they did? Can't complain.
That complaint and victim should be, the process should be easy for them to seek justice. It shouldn't be arduous, and they shouldn't be dragged through the mill, come down this time, oh, you don't wanna help out? Okay, we're gonna decline your case. They should be supported by the Bronx DA's office. It should be an easy process for them. It shouldn't be a hard process where they have to jump through hoops to prosecute people. That's something that should be addressed, 100%. So, 9 times out of 10, those type of cases, I don't see the Bronx DA's office really declining prosecution. It's really these low-level offenses where shoplifting and stuff like that. But when they have a complaint and victim that is steady and will not drop the case and wants justice and is strong and makes his appearances, I hope to God that she's keeping in charge. I hope. It's the process that I think is really needs to be easier for victims. Well, my honest assessment.
Thank you very much, Commander. So now we have the rest of the elected officials. We have Tom McCain from the Foxborough President's Office.
Jeremy, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that the commander finished because I wanted to ask a question.
Okay, Brando, Mike, please. You got one right behind you. Take it.
Happy Thanksgiving to all.
Oh, sure. You're talking for 2 hours, now you leave.
I gotta go to another event.
Hi, first of all, thank you for all the work you do and your men out there and review this. I do have an issue and a concern. With the Bellin Parkway project, a lot of the traffic has been diverted to Astor Avenue and Warren Avenue. There is also an encouraging sign, actually, telling drivers to go on Warren. We had a quick conversation requesting for possible placement of, I guess, a police car once in a while on the speeders. There's been at least 2 or 3 accidents that I'm aware of. One happened today. How can we go about to kind of encourage people to, first of all, keep to 25 miles an hour, but they won't unless they get a little encouraging ticket. So, can you help us out?
Okay, so you're talking about speeding on where?
Yes,
You're saying?
and Astor.
So I don't have the numbers as far as the enforcement or the activity we've done on Waring. We've wrote 743 speeding summonses year to date, which is just down 9 from last year. But I can have the traffic officers focus on that corridor, if you want that.
Yes, I would appreciate, and I'm not saying daily, but maybe do a revolving type, and don't put it exactly on East Chester, put it a couple of blocks west of East Chester Road and Warren Avenue.
So, yeah, that's the best thing, like, I've spoken about this in regards to, like, moving summonses. That only temporarily slaps people's hands. It doesn't stop the issue. You have to redesign the streets or put up like a speed camera or do a speed bump. You have to do something to slow them down because summonses is just a temporary deterrent while they're out there. But this is, to be honest with you, speed bumps are really restricted to in and around schools. Speed camera, we can talk to DOT about, or maybe Mark can help us out with that. But it's...
I just want to add, we all know Election Day is November 6th. There's 3 items on the referendum in the back. One of them is to limit community boards to term limits. I encourage you to all vote no. I value all of you, and I think anyone that is a part of a community board that attends regular meetings, your experience that you gather over the years makes you a better community board member.
And for those of you that want to continue to serve, should be allowed to serve without the fear of term limits. We value experience. And the other two options I'll leave to you, but I will certainly be voting no on the one that asks for term limits on community board members. Thank you.
Almost all of us. Almost.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I shared the full report from the Borough President with Jeremy, and I'll ask him to forward the copy to all of you. It's an extensive report, and obviously it will go well beyond my 2 minutes. But I do want to mention just a couple of quick things. One is for the new board members, specifically, the 3 members. There is, and I don't know if Jeremy shared this with you yet, there is a land use training session for new board members being held on the 1st of November. I have flyers here, and I'll ask Jeremy to be sure that he gets them to you. And then secondly, and thirdly actually, are the 2 requirements that the Borough President has placed. One regarding the signing of the EEO policy, which most of you have signed. They're just, again, the new board members have to review it and sign it. And then secondly, you all received a letter from the Borough President's General Counsel and our EEO Director regarding the sexual harassment training session. This is required by local law, which was passed by the City Council. It requires all city employees, all board members of any type of board in the city to take this training course. It can be done one of 3 different ways. One is you can make an appointment with Jeremy and take the computer-based course in his office. 2, if you happen to be closer to my office, we have computers available for you to take it at my office. You can call me for that. 3, we have been offering lectures for those who do not want to take it on a computer. We had one this past Tuesday. We're having one on November the 15th at 5:30 in the evening, where it'll be a 2-hour lecture. If you're coming to the lecture, it's a mandatory 2-hour sit-down session. If you take it online, it's about 45 minutes. And then lastly, actually 2 more. If you happen to work down in the city, close to City Hall, they're offering the course at the DCAS offices at 1 Center Street. And then lastly, if you happen to be a city employee, you're already required to take this course as part of your employment. So if you have taken it as part of that employment, all I need is a copy of the certificate of completion. If you get it to me directly, you get it to Jeremy, he'll get it to me, and your obligation will be fulfilled. The final thing is that this is a yearly training session. So you'll be doing it this year, and you'll be doing it again next year. Since the sexual harassment training is a mandated local law, if you do not take it, the Borough President will not consider your reappointment. If you refuse to take it, it's possible that you will be removed from the board even before your time is up on the board. The EEO document also is a document the Borough President is requiring you to sign. And once again, if it is not signed, the Borough President will not consider your reappointment. Thank you.
Okay, Joe McManus, Councilmember Torres' office.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. I put out a few flyers over there, and again, it's one says lead screening, but that's actually a blood test. So if you need something like that, or you want something like that, you have to call the office. If you need lead testing for your water, you can call 311. They'll send you a lead testing kit. And there's another flyer out there for some services. I got a call from a constituent about Bronx Park East and the trees. So since I don't believe anybody, I walked from Pelham Parkway North up to Allerton just to see. And in my opinion, which I'm not an arborist, I'm not a tree person, looks like there was maybe 50 trees that were down, you know. So I'm gonna have a meeting, I set up a meeting with Jeremy's help with Parks Tuesday, 10 o'clock on Bronx Park East. I'm gonna actually walk it with the Parks person so we can get a plan if they need, because he said, well, some of the trees might have to come down, or he says the people won't like that. I says, look, let's go, let's have a meeting, and let's get a plan and decide what we're gonna do. But it seems to me, I walked one spot, it was like 600 feet without a tree on the street, which I thought was unusual. Also, the councilman, has funded a exploratory committee for the Allerton bid. At the last meeting, the steering committee voted for officers, so, that has started. And, just want to say happy Thanksgiving, happy Halloween to everybody. Don't get scared. I have plenty of candy. I can't believe how many kids come to my door, like 400 or 500. Get out the candy. I'll be there.
All right, great, thank you, Joe. The mayor's office cannot be here, but they did leave a flyer on the table reminding you about the ballot initiatives. We have a representative from Senator Jamal Bailey's office, Renell.
Hi, I'm Renell from Senator Jamal Bailey's office. I'm his community liaison. The month of October, we had many events. We had 2 domestic violence events. We had one in Mount Vernon, and we had one here in the Bronx. We also have our Halloween event. That's Tuesday from 6:30 to 8:30 at the office. That's 959 East 233rd Street. If you're interested in bringing any children, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, sons, daughters, we have flyers on the table. Also, we have our business and entrepreneur workshop. That's November 8th from 5 to 8. That's 4848 White Plains Road. I also have that flyer. And lastly, we have our mental wellness workshop. I believe this is a very important issue. Many of us, we bypass mental illness, but that's something that we need to really focus on. That's Saturday, November 17th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Dole Center. If you're interested in any of these events, again, they're on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. So that ends the elected officials portion of the meeting. We'll move on to chairman's report. Al?
I'll be a lot briefer, I promise. Motion to accept the minutes. Second.
Second by Tony. Any discussion?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It carries. The other thing I want to mention is on November 28th, we're going to have a town hall meeting at PS 83 at 7 o'clock. It's going to have to do with one of the things that that's going to be discussed is the dieting of Morris Park Avenue by the DOT. Department of Traffic wants to narrow Morris Park to 1 lane in each direction instead of 2. They've done it in different areas. This board, I think all but one person voted against it. The Van Ness Association voted against it. The Morris Park Association voted against it. 1,000 petitioners voted against it. The store owners of all Morris Park voted against it. And DOT is still planning on doing it. So we're having a town hall meeting on November 28th to bring our elected officials, news media, and whatever else we can bring to bear. The people should decide. If the people decided they wanted a bike lane, that would be fine. But the people decided they didn't want it. Why does government tell us what's best for us? We decided against it in every forum that we put forth. It was voted down almost unanimously. I would say with maybe 1 or 2 dissenters. So why don't they listen? It's been done in Drags Neck, and people from Drags Neck are coming to speak about how it's a disaster there. They've done it in Tremont. People from Tremont are coming to speak about how it was detrimental to the traffic flow on Tremont Avenue. So, obviously fighting City Hall. No one seems to care what the people want. They just decided this is what we're going to get, and they know better than we. So, on November 28th at 7 o'clock, BS 83, there will be a town hall meeting to discuss this.
Question.
Brian, for
Yes, Al. One of the things that was brought to my attention from Grace was that we need an injunction we need, you know, Senator Klein is still our senator. We need an injunction, because if everybody is saying that they don't want it in the community, yet there's still the pressure coming from City Hall. This town hall is good, but we need to have an injunction to basically to set different wheels in motion.
We have letters from all our elected officials, you're right, we have letters, by the way, from all our elected officials, from the congressman to the senator to the assemblyman to the councilman, opposing this.
Doesn't
Because
matter.
again, they're going with the will of the people, they represent us, and this is what we want. But you might be right, Nora, that I'll look into that.
Yes, I am right.
Great. Treasurer's report, Silva Mazzella?
Yes, the treasury report has been distributed. If you have any questions, see Harriet or myself after the meeting. Also, I'd like to take this time to remind everyone, Sunday, November 11th, at 11 a.m., we have a ceremony at Peace Plaza. Also, there'll be another one at Van Ness in White Plains at 12 o'clock. Okay? And the parade is on the 18th, on Charlie's Day.
Thank you. Thank you, Silvia. So my report. So Tom McKinney already mentioned about the sexual harassment training. To my surprise, almost about half of you have done this already. If you haven't done it yet, please call the office and schedule something, or email us. Tonight's not a good time because I don't have the calendar where I have everything written down in front of me. It's at the office. As Tom said, it is an annual thing, right? In addition to that, our office, all community boards are being audited. Remember the EEO agreement you signed, or some of you have signed? That was back in May-ish. I know the newer board members, I know we didn't necessarily collect that from the 3 new ones yet. We still need to collect those.